Hello and welcome to Wellbeing. I'm Jack Hodgins. Today we'll be discussing the wellbeing of educators during COVID. We are joined by Principal Dr. Mark Merry from Yarra Valley Grammar School. Dr. Merry has been in the educational field for more than 4 decades and became principal at Yarra Valley in 2009. Yarra Valley has been operating as a co-educational school since 1978 and caters for early learning to Year 12 students. Hello Mark and welcome to the program.
Thanks, Jack. Great to be here.
What is the importance of teachers in education to our society?
Jack, I think one thing this whole pandemic business has taught us is how fundamentally critical they are. And the good news is that with so many students online at home, parents probably for the first time have had a chance to sit in on class, just off camera and listening to how the classes go. And I've had so much feedback from parents about how teachers have been encouraging and interesting and engaging the young people. And I tell you, I think the stock of teachers in the community has risen remarkably.
Do you think it's given parents a better idea of how hard teachers work as well?
Absolutely. Now we, as you said, are a K-12 school, and just think about this. You've got a teacher of prep, they've got 20 kids, and they've got them all online, teaching them online. It's like herding cats. And a lot of parents are sitting by computers just shaking their heads saying, I really, really don't know how you do it. At the other end, you've got, Year 11 and 12 teachers teaching the VCE and how important that is. And they are working really overtime to make sure the students don't miss out. They're acutely aware that of the importance of those years. So they're putting in extra work. I believe they're putting in over and above at the moment. Last year, surprisingly, I suppose, our Year 12 got the best results in the history of the school. So something is working.
I guess it's also a true testament to just how much passion teachers have too.
Well, look, I think we've got a great combination. We've got teachers who are absolutely passionate about their subjects. We've got aspirational students who want to do really well, and we've got families who are very supportive. So when you get that combination together, it's pretty powerful. Now, I'm not saying that prolonged lockdowns are a good thing, because over time, teachers do wear out, students do wear out, and it can be a hard grind over time. So if I had the best of it, I'd have our kids back at school as quickly as we could, because there's no matter how well we do online learning, there's no real substitute for the real thing.
What are some struggles that the teachers have been going through with the change in setting of classroom?
Well, initially, last year, everything was brand new. I mean, everything was new, so all bets were off. So teachers who were very proficient at teaching on campus and teaching classes in front of them, all of a sudden had to learn new skills. Now, to give them great credit, they did it quickly. Now, because we've gone backward and forward, the word of the year is pivot. Because we've pivoted backward and forward to online on-campus learning, it's like flicking a switch now. Friday, we're teaching on campus. Monday, we're teaching off campus. And literally, we just run the identical day, 5-period day, 5 teachers a day, whether they be on campus or at home. Now, as you can appreciate, there's a fair bit of intensity there, particularly for a teacher who's got their own kids at home. So you've got a teacher teaching class of 20, 25 students who's also got perhaps their primary age child at home, trying to keep them engaged. So it's a bit of multitasking needed, and they've done a great job with it. Not just at Yarra, but I think across the profession, teachers have done a great job.
Have students and parents been supportive of the teachers during the pandemic?
Yeah, very much so. Our students, they're great kids anyway, but they have been very supportive, and the parents, I've had lots of correspondence from the parents who have been so grateful for what the teachers are doing. Now, again, having said that, over time, it can become a burden because young people want to be with their friends. When they are able to come back to school, you should see the smiles on their faces. They're just so glad to be back. Now, who would have thought that? Students are craving to be at school, but they are. They want to be there. They want to see their teachers, but primarily they want to see their mates, and they're feeling the loss of that. So over time, no matter how good our online curriculum is, and it is good, no matter how good it is, it's no substitute for the real thing. So we really are quite keen on seeing our kids back. We don't want to see them back too early. We don't want this Delta strain to run right through the schools. So we understand that we've got to bide our time, but we will really be grateful to have them back and get back to what we do best, and that's working with young people.
You're listening to Wellbeing, where we are discussing the wellbeing of educators during COVID. My guest today is Principal from Yarra Valley Grammar School, Principal Dr. Mark Merry. How long have you been in the educational field and why did you enter the profession?
I started teaching in 1985, a long time now. I taught for 7 years and then I got a deputy principal's job. I realised now how little I knew and how raw and lacking in experience I was. But I muddled through that, got through that, a couple of deputies' positions, and then I was principal of a school here in Melbourne, Marsden College, big boys' school in Bulleen. And from there came to Yarra. I've never looked back in that profession. Teaching is a wonderful profession. Being a leader in schools is great. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. I went into teaching initially because I loved history and I was a history teacher. So someone paid me to do something I loved, go figure. And then over time, I've just loved working with young people. It's such an energising and great profession to be in. So I'm a big rap for it. So your listeners out there, if you are even considering the idea of perhaps getting into education, I give it a big rap. As I say, I've never looked back. It's a great job.
When the pandemic hit and Zoom became the classroom, as a principal, how did that affect your workload?
Believe it or not, an empty school is actually harder to run when you've got everyone there, particularly with a rapidly changing situation with the pandemic. You've got to be quick. The government can make an announcement at 11 o'clock, which affects the whole school community the very next day. You've got to be right on it and have a position that the school takes from that moment, and the sands shift very quickly. So in many ways, the workload for principals and teachers has gone up with remote learning. And so running a school remotely is a tough gig. I'll be first to admit it. It's a different kind of job, whereas normally it's a very relational job. You're seeing people, you're engaging with people in the physical space. Running a remote school, you've got to try and keep that connection with the students and the connection with their families as much as possible, because you don't want to lose that. You don't want them to feel their community starting to disintegrate around them. So we do a lot of online stuff. We do a lot of vlogs. We touch base with families a lot. We keep in touch with teachers. We're acutely aware of keeping the morale of our teachers high, and I'm glad to say it still is. But all those considerations take time and a lot of thinking. The main thing that a school leadership does at the moment is, in an uncertain world, to try and lend some certainty. So what we try and do is to be predictable. So that's why we have our 5-period day, 5 days a week. We keep steady contact with teachers and with parents and with students to try and calm it down a bit. In a very wacky, frenzied world, which is changing all the time and is a bit uncertain, we are certain. And so that certainty lends confidence with the families, and it just calms the students down a bit, and we just keep doing what we're doing.
How have the students been going with the online schooling?
It's been an interesting evolution. When it first kicked in last year, they were absolutely rapt. I mean, this was great. You know, you didn't have to get out of bed early. You didn't have to get in the school uniform. You didn't have to get the bus. So you started an hour later, and there was a great novelty around it. Now, that lasted right throughout last year. This year, I think with the stop-start, it's been a little harder. The students are still in class, no question about it, and they're still answering questions and they're still engaging. But our teachers are starting to detect that they're getting a little flattened. You know, they're feeling a bit flat. And so we've introduced a couple of things to try and break it up a bit. We had a screen-free day this week where we said, just down tools, everyone. Don't go near a computer. Just get out and get a bit of fresh air, read a book, talk to friends. But that screen-free day was very well received. You know, the students loved it, the teachers loved it, and even the parents, you know, we didn't get, they're not in school. The parents said, we get it. They just need some time out just to regroup, and we got back into it. So I think our students have been great. I'm a big rap for their, the word resilience gets thrown around a bit, but I'll throw it around a bit more. I'm a big rap for their resilience. I'm a big rap for the way they've been so flexible and learnt to learn in a different way and done that really quickly. So all power to them.
It also seems with the pandemic that teachers have had to be innovators of sorts in how they approach teaching kids just because of the change in environment.
It is, and fortunately we've got some great back-end support with our IT people, and we had a lot of very quick professional learning. You know, necessity is the mother of invention. If I'd have asked teachers to be really proficient with online learning without any need, it would have taken a couple of years. But because this pandemic hit us and we actually had to do it, it took days to upskill our teachers to be able to do this and do it well. So really, because we had to, it forced the pace a bit. Now, I've sat in on a few classes. I've got a sense what they're like. The quality of the teaching's great. The engagement of the kids is very good. So they've not only had to teach the content that they have to teach in this year, but they've also had to learn to deliver that content at home and to make sure they can engage all of the students in the class. Highly skilled and highly motivated workforce, I think, teachers.
Have there been any positives that have come out of the COVID pandemic for teaching?
I think the main positives are that teachers have proven just how good they are. And I go back to what I said about parents. Parents have sat in on classes just off screen and just shaken their heads and say, I had no idea. No idea what these teachers do to engage and enthuse and entertain and teach and get the best out of their kids. And I've had an absolute flurry of emails from parents saying, look, I have to say, they've done a great job. The other unintended consequence is that when students do come back to school, they realise just how much they love school. It might be because their mates are there. It might be because they get out and about and play sport or music or drama or debating, whatever it is. They love their school, and so they've learnt that as well. And finally, teachers have worked out they have the capacity to learn very quickly and to do things differently. And so all over Australia now, we've now got a teaching workforce which is highly proficient at online teaching, and that has to be a good thing.
When it comes to mental health and wellbeing, how has that been supported for both students and teachers during the pandemic?
For the students, we have every Wednesday, we have Wellbeing Wednesday. What happens is the tutors get online and we have a traffic light system. And if the students press green, that means they're fine. If they press red, that means we need to have another conversation. And every now and again, a young person will press red. I'm just struggling a bit. And so we have a follow-up with our tutors or our year-level coordinators, or even if it's really serious, with our psychologists. So we've been really monitoring the progress of the kids. Every now and again we do something differently. So we had the house cross-country competition at home, and parents, students and teachers were all involved. So they would record the distance they've run or walked and so forth, and then they'd get that back to us, and the winning house was the one which covered the most distance. So not only was it we were able to get the students out, but their families as well, and parents love that, being in the house country competition. In terms of teachers, your timing's wonderful, Jack, because I've just received a pack here in the mail about 5 minutes ago, which is from our staff association. And it's a thinking of you pack, and it's full of all sorts of goodies. You know, I've got fudge here, and I've got peanut brittle and all sorts of things that are going to add to my COVID kilos. But that's just come out of the blue. I had no idea that this was coming, and this is just from our staff association saying, hi, just thinking about you. So it's the little things, and it doesn't take much, but it's the little things that spur us on a bit. We did send out to our Year 12 students, which arrives today or tomorrow, to all our Year 12s, which is a Year 12 2021 face mask. It also comes with a $25 delivery food voucher as well, so knock themselves out ordering some food online. So, Jack, it's the little things. It really is the little things that keep people going.
And I think with COVID too, it's shown us that it is the little things that matter, and I think it's also highlighted just the importance of others, and seeing them face to face, because we haven't been able to do that. And I think when push comes to shove, how important other people are.
It's absolutely critical. Schools are primarily educational places, but they are relational places. It's all about the relationships. That's what makes them tick. But even more broadly, I go out for a bit of a walk and I see lots and lots of neighbours out for exercise and they're saying hello and, how you going and all that sort of thing. So ironically, this shutdown has, in a sense, got us to reconsider what's important. And clearly what's important are the people around us, and that can't be a bad thing.
What has been the most difficult experience for you in your job in the last 18 months?
I think, and this is why I don't criticise state premiers in the decisions they make, right? Because, it's easy to say, what are they doing that for? The government's doing that. Haven't they thought about this? Well, when you actually have to make decisions, there's so many different variables involved. You're going to have a rainbow of opinion about whether you're right or wrong. You're going to have implications that, no matter what you do, there are unintended consequences, there's different implications. Some people will be happy, some won't be happy. So the hard bit, I suppose, is working out what you think is right, making a call, and explaining what you're doing and why you're doing it. I think that's critically important, just not making arbitrary decisions. For example, our screen-free day. We explained to the parents, look, the students are getting screen fatigue, productivity will start to slip, and classes won't be as good as they should be. So let's just have a day off. Now, when you explain that to people, they understand the reasoning behind it, they'll back you. So every decision we make in the school, we've second-guessed ourselves. We've looked at every single permutation of what could go wrong, and that takes a bit of time and effort. But look, that's what we're here for. My job as a school leader primarily is to make sure that the teachers get a good opportunity to teach and teach well. That's my job. So I try and get out of the way as much as possible, but try and make their lives as easy as possible so they can do what they do well.
You're listening to Wellbeing, where we are discussing the well-being of educators during COVID. My guest today is Principal from Yarra Valley Grammar School, Principal Dr. Mark Merry. Has there been any really great experiences though that you've also had from this pandemic?
It comes down to the appreciation people have. Now for example, I can't say too much about this because I've promised they will remain anonymous, but one member of our community contacted us and said that she'd been watching students working in class and marvelled at how good the teachers are and how wonderful they are, and she personally, through us, has sent a gift out to every single Year 12 student in the school. And it's remarkable how generous that is. It's just wonderful generosity. We have a cafe next door to the school, and I walked across the road to get a coffee, and the owner said, look, someone has said that any teacher who comes in here from that school over the road, the coffee's on me. I mean, remarkable stuff, just remarkable stuff. This is, again, I think, the greatest unintended consequence. People realise the job that teachers do and how important it is, not only to their own students, but more broadly to their families as well. So that, to me, has been the best of unintended consequences, that all of a sudden people realise, hey, teachers, they do work hard, they do put in, they are important.
What is the greatest thing about your job?
I love it. I mean, I get to work with young people. I get to work with my colleagues. If you're in a school where the teachers are there for the right reasons and they love what they do and the students are aspirational, they want to do well and they think it's cool to do well, it's the best job in the world. As a principal, you have some tough days. You're presented with some real issues, some tough issues, but ultimately it's the best job in the world. You're working with people all the time. No 2 days is the same. I can get up in the morning and we deal with various issues. I can be talking to you on the radio. The job is so varied, you never get bored, and that's why I love it.
What could be done to make things better for all in the teaching profession during this time?
Possibly. We've seen such an evolution in people's thinking about teachers. The more people understand what teachers do, and this is the big opportunity for families. Watch classes, see what's going on, see the fact that teaching is not just about learning, about the French Revolution. It's about the way the teacher teaches it, the encouragement they give to the young people to be involved, the affirmation they give kids when they get it right, the extra help they give when they need it. I think the more that realisation dawns on people, the more appreciated teachers will be. I actually think traditionally teachers in Australia haven't been appreciated as much as they ought. We have a partner school in Japan. Teachers over there are revered in society. I've been to Italy, where the professore is revered in Italian culture. I think in Australia, perhaps traditionally not so much. And I think this is the opportunity. This is the chance people can get to really get an insight into what happens in the classroom. Take that opportunity and realise, hey, these people, A, know what they're doing, and B, work very, very hard to make sure people get it. And I think that to me should be the mission of everyone during this pandemic time.
I think you made some great points then there, Mark, because you mentioned there how in Italy and Japan, how they are revered, and I think even just from this interview, I think our listeners will get a sense that perhaps we should maybe revere our teachers a bit more, because you always remember a good teacher that really cared for you. I remember teachers that cared for me, and we should value that so much more, I think, in Australian society.
Jack, you've really hit it on the head. I'll put this challenge to you. I bet you won't remember what you were taught in Year 10, but by God, I bet you remember the teacher who taught you. And it's the teachers who care and the teachers who really genuinely have an interest in the young people. They're the people you always remember. Now, I can't remember much about what happened in my Year 12 economics class. I can't remember much about what I was taught. But by God, I remember Bernie O'Brien who taught me. I remember because he cared and he had a great way of engaging the whole class. And it's that enthusiasm which led me on to university. And it was the enthusiasm of certain university lecturers that I said to myself, hey, I might keep going. And I did keep going. So it really was the people in the process who led me, for example, in my career to where I was going. So, yeah, I believe you do remember your teachers. You remember the ones that weren't so good, and you certainly remember the ones that were great.
What would be the take-home from this interview you'd want people to remember the most?
The take-home is, I think all of us more broadly, probably have a better understanding of how important that community is. Now, the community could be your neighbourhood, it could be your church, it could be your footy club, and it's certainly your school. And I think we should go away from this experience saying, hey, it is important. These institutions out there where people get a chance to meet and to make friendships and relationships, and those institutions are absolutely critical. So rather than ignore your neighbours, rather than not join the local club, and rather than have a sort of non-committal attitude towards school, embrace those things because they're absolutely critical. You only know how important something is when you've lost it. And over the last 18 months, we've lost it a bit. So I'd hope people would go back and with a renewed enthusiasm for community. And when their sons and daughters go back to school, embrace the idea that school is an important part of our lives, and it's important because of the people there. So that's what I hope people would pick up from all of this.
Well, thank you for sharing your insight with us today, Mark. We appreciate you taking the time.
Jack, I appreciate your interest in schools and in education more broadly. I think the media, I think, generally get it right, and this kind of interest certainly helps to enthuse us a bit more. So congratulations to you and to the station for the interest you have.
My guest today was Principal Dr. Mark Merry from Yarra Valley Grammar. Thank you for listening. I'm Jack Hodgins, and all of us at Wellbeing wish you well.